talk to people that are further ahead of you in the journey because you learn a lot from them. So I've talked to so many excellent authors whose works I've read and admired. What I've realized is that the really good authors are very comfortable in sharing their approach to writing, and because they're also interested in learning and listening to your stories because they can learn from it. That has helped me out tremendously.
This is the CritRPG Podcast, your one-stop shop for everything Lit RPG, progression fantasy, and Royal Road. Alright everyone, hi and welcome to the CritRPG Podcast, the only podcast that gets into hot water. With me today is Daoist Enigma, author of Cultivating Chai and many other stories, like, for example, Modern Patriarch. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Fantastic. How about you?
Great, thank you. I'm also doing awesome. We've already been talking about Modern Patreon, Modern Patriarch for a while in the bonus stuff that you can find on my Patreon. But we've also talked about your Patreon and the fact that you've kind of tried to somehow make it work, but you like writing multiple stories, which is, I think, great. But yeah, today we're mostly here to talk about Cultivating Chai. So why don't you sum me on the story?
Okay, so Cultivating Chai is about, well, it's about a warm cup of chai. Who doesn't like a warm cup of chai? And who doesn't like cozy fantasy these days, you know? So like, so it's just, so it's about it's about Xiao Feng, our main character, who is transmigrated into the body of Martial Division cultivator. So the guy he's transmigrated into is someone who fights on the front lines of a war between the righteous path and the demonic path sects, right? And the guy who gets transmigrated is a college student, like not even through college, and he's like subsisting of ramen and chai. And so there's like a clear disparity between who he was and now who he's supposed to be if he doesn't want to get branded a heretic. And because soul swapping is a thing, right? So he can get caught basically. So now he has to act the part. And so that's Cultivating Chai. It's like it's a fun, cozy story, and it also has its moments where we explore the martial side of things.
I like the fact that he has to act in a certain way, even though it's a cozy story. That's a really cool twist, because like usually in cozy stories, people are just all right being themselves, which is like part of the charm of some of those stories. But I do like there's plenty of opportunities there for comedy, for slapstick, for humor, and also catharsis. I like it. Cool. So I mean, you have 13 stories on your Royal Road profile, but why don't you tell me, Cultivating Chai, why and how that story?
So I've been writing cultivation for like 2 years, 2.5 years, and I think 2 years. Yeah, and like I wrote Modern Patriarch, which is currently on Amazon, and it took me a long while to write that story because as much as I was writing the story, I was also learning about the genre through my own writing and its breadth, its depth. And it was a very fun experience. And I just realized that I really like the Shanxia genre. And I also really like chai, man. I was just like, I like these two themes can really have a very fun, very quirky, very eye-catching fusion. And the idea just came out to me like lightning, and I was like, why not write it, you know? Yeah.
You mean like an infusion?
Like an infusion, yeah, like a bloom of ingredients. Yeah.
Really nice bouquet. Awesome.
Sorry?
A really nice bouquet with like a good second flush. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love to drink tea. I really enjoy tea a lot.
Me
Like
too.
right now I can't. It's too much caffeine. It like wrecks my system. But
Yeah.
I I miss the times of like there's this Kuzmi tea, and they have this wonderful green with mixed with like a really sharp mint. Ah, it's
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah. Uh,
But yeah, okay. Well, okay. And then you just started writing it, just like jumped into it, and then that
yeah. I
was that, I
mean,
think.
that's how rising stars works, right?
Yeah.
Once you start, you can't stop. Yeah. So you just keep going. And I think another aspect of cultivation chai and like cozy stories in general is that
Mm-hmm.
when I talk about chai, I'm not necessarily talking about the beverage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm so this I'm talking about the memories that are associated with that beverage for me. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not about the drink. It's the so if I ask you what's the best coffee you've ever had, right? So your answer might not. You can tell me your answer after this. So I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
interrupt you, but your
Mm-hmm.
answer might not be the most expensive
Mm-hmm.
25 or like $50 coffee you had, right? It might be the one time you were with a friend and you were just having the time of your life, and you were having a really fun conversation with
Mm-hmm.
a hot cup of cappuccino. The drink doesn't matter, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
about the memories you associate with the drink. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's the key to any cozy fiction, is that it's not about the beverage, it's about the emotion behind
Mm-hmm.
the beverage. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
That's a very good point. Like I don't even drink coffee all that much. I have like one memory or two there, but yeah, like you are right. It is about the emotion, and
Yeah.
it all comes back to promises again, right?
Yeah.
If you're looking at Beware of Chicken, if you're looking at Heretical Fishing, if you're looking at yours, um, there's a certain promise of comfort, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I
Yeah.
think
Absolutely.
the point that you're making with like the food stuffs and the connection to certain memories, I think is super interesting because many doctors, many cooks do the same thing on a high level. They
Yeah.
want you
Yeah.
to feel as though you're back at home when the first time you've eaten this thing,
Yeah.
by making a dish that is like so new and yet somehow comfortable, like
Yeah. Yeah.
recall something. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. So restaurants don't sell food; they sell experiences. Again,
Mm-hmm.
it's the same concept, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you like if you go to a cafe, you can make coffee at home. Nobody like you can buy that. An AeroPress isn't even that expensive. Like I have like just because I like chai doesn't mean I hate coffee. I like coffee too, but so yeah, an AeroPress isn't expensive. You get those filters, you get your ground coffee. That can be a bit pricey, but you just aeropress it and you've got a perfectly good cup of coffee right there. um
Yeah,
but
I.
again, it's
Mhm.
experiences with the cafe. Like you could have a date there and you will
Mhm.
always
Mhm.
remember that cafe for the one date
Mhm.
you had, even if it went nowhere, because yeah,
Mhm.
anyway, humans are emotional creatures. Yeah.
Yeah. So remember how I had several stories that I started writing and I just didn't know where to go with it.
Yeah.
Um, one of them is called Isekai Fry Guy,
Yeah.
where a guy gets like isekai'd into like a food truck and he has to
Oh,
like
that sounds very
do something.
like on
Yeah,
my alley. I like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I just have no idea what the fridge to do with that story. Like none at all. Like, because I mean, I like comfort food and I like
Yeah.
the idea behind it, but mostly what I want to write is I write very, very not anguished characters, but like
Yeah.
I like to write characters like who experience like intense emotions.
Yeah.
And I love reading like cozy. I really do, but I couldn't write it for the life of me because my mind,
That's
yeah,
yeah. That's
always
perfectly
goes to like
yeah.
this other stuff.
Yeah. 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 Go on. Yeah.
And my mind always goes to like this, like, so how can I make this bad? How can I make this worse?
Yeah.
That doesn't really
Yeah.
Max. Mishmash? which is like a German drink.
Nice. I should try that sometimes. Totally. Yeah.
Actually, yeah, it's really good. It's
Yeah.
mixing cola with like Fanta. I don't
Oh,
think they even have that. Like, I know America doesn't have Fanta because it's a German drink, but it's a long story. Anyway, so you were
yeah.
saying?
So you
Mhm,
mentioned Isekai Fry Guy, right?
mhm,
So it's, I think, like for me, like so there's the methodology behind why I chose chai, right? So
mhm,
like it's just like on a warm day, and it was like I think the cup of chai I remember the most is when it was the uh, I don't want to say that word if it's a trigger for people, but that period
mhm,
of time when we're all inside and we couldn't go outside and the world just was just like shades of gray, right? So I was just like, it was winters and I was just feeling very down because
mhm.
the last semester of my college had gotten cancelled and we were
Oh,
supposed to do that from home. So we never
mhm,
really got a send off, right?
mhm,
So I was drinking a cup of chai and I was just like, it was it was really comforting to my soul, right? And it was
mhm,
just so I think that's the again the interplay of emotion with the
mhm,
beverage, and that's why I can write about it because it's just
mhm,
something I believe in a manner of speaking. It's just
mhm.
something that's connected to me, like um. But yeah, there's more to cultivating chai than just chai
Mhm.
itself. Obviously, I can't write 200,000 words about chai because then it'll become a cookbook.
Yeah. Oh my god.
uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
I, but there's like in like progression fantasy and lit RPGs obviously closely related to gaming, and there's several games that I've recently picked up or looked at um, that have like the same like cozy kind of feel. And there was one about having like a tea store. I forgot what it was called. Um, but I also know that there's one about having a mobile library or like a mobile bookstore like out of the truck. That's really cool. Um,
I think I
and
might have heard of that, but the
yeah,
name's not striking me.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I've kind of been like thinking about this like essence of cozy there. Um, how do you how does one in general get to this cozy point? What's the essence of it? And I think you kind of summed it up really well, right? So how do you make people feel good, but at the same time not leave the action out?
For me, I think the setting does it for me because
Mm,
cultivation is a setting that has action. Like even if you
mm,
focus on the cozy aspect, it's still going to be some elder uh,
mm,
throwing a flying spear at another elder. That's
yeah.
always going to happen. But like that's what I focused on in Modern Patriarch, and in
Mm,
Chai, I don't focus uh, on it as much because it's a cozier story. But there
mm,
is the main character does know how to defend himself, and he
mm,
does want to improve that. He wants to learn more techniques, but
mm,
sort of in the first three chapters, he basically quits the
mm,
martial side of things.
yeah.
He's like, I don't want to fight in the war anymore.
Mm,
And because truthfully, he can't. He doesn't. He might have the muscle memory and the memories from his predecessor, but
mm,
that doesn't mean he can actually fight and do all
mm,
that, right? So he just instead of
mm,
so like a lot of isekai stories, you have this guy, random guy. He goes
mm,
into another person's body, and this person
mm,
is like a respected a general and a fighter, and he's had years of experience, but like you still don't like the new person won't have that any of that, right? Unless
mm,
he has a similar experience back on Earth. So he's just going to get KO'd in the first chapter, realistically. So in cultivating chai, it just puts in the resignation notice and says that he's going to do alchemy. He's
yeah.
going to the alchemy
Alchemy.
division. Yeah,
Alchemy, sure. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
I can see that. Like I definitely see that.
yeah,
That's really cool. It's interesting that like from what you were saying, modern patriarch almost starts the opposite, right?
yeah, yeah.
It's like in Cultivating Chai, there's like action at the beginning, and then there's like chill stuff. And in Modern Patriarch, it's kind of like the other way around. Like there's like some chill stuff first, and like ascension, and that's cool shit. And then we're kind of like like going more into a well, spiritual phase, I guess, and then we're going back into the action. So like it's funny, it's interesting. I like it.
Yeah. But yeah, I think my methodology towards a cozy fantasy is very different from a regular fantasy. Uh, uh, so in the cozy fantasy, I just focus on the parts that I have emotionally resonated in my life experience. And again, so I told you about my connection with chai, and it's just like it's more about the emotion that it brings out instead of the drink itself. Because these days we can all make the drinks at home. We can drink it 5 times a week, 10 times a week. So yeah, it's not something you remember per se. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. That's a good ending point for that segment, I think. All right. So, what's the best advice you've ever gotten as a writer?
So I have a lot of author friends, and my advice would be to talk to people that are further ahead of you in the journey, because you learn a lot from them. So I've talked to so many good, like so many excellent authors whose works I've read and admired. So I've just sent them a random message, and I've connected with them. And like I think what I've realized is that like don't be afraid to do that, because the good authors, the really good authors, are very comfortable in sharing their aspect, their methodology, their approach to writing, and because they're also interested in learning and listening to your stories, because they can learn from it. So I think that has helped me out tremendously, because there's just so many good things so many authors do well. Like I've spoken to the author of Mark of the Fool, and I really like his characters. His characters are so vibrant. I've
Yeah, Trader
spoken
Man is
to
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, Tatum Man's amazing. I've spoken to the author of Kieran, and I really like his magic building. Like he has so many spells, and they're so cool. And I really like that. I've spoken to Honor Ray, and I really like her deck builder. I just really like the young adult approach she's taken, and like all the like. I just really like how the title itself sells you on the entire book, because that
Yeah.
plot carries across 3 books, and it's just
Yeah.
very fascinating how she does that. And
By the way, I've had all those people on the podcast.
yeah, yeah,
It's
and yeah,
it's a very good
and
piece of
I can
advice.
learn from you too. Your podcasting skills are
Thank you.
clearly top notch.
Wow,
Yeah,
thanks. Not my writing skills. Wow, thank you. No, I'm kidding. What? No, what? I was joking.
yeah,
No, it's also like part of the reason why this podcast kind of exists or continues to go on as it does, because I do like talking to all these authors just on a personal
yeah,
level, but I also
yeah,
of course like to learn stuff, and
yeah,
I still hope that it helps other people learn as well, especially if
yeah,
they're like a little bit more shy and don't really want to like talk to someone else. I do
yeah,
feel as though that is beneficial.
yeah,
So totally, uh, go out there and talk to people. I think it's a
yeah,
very good,
yeah.
very
And
good
like
kind of
even if
thing.
you even if you don't talk to other authors, just talking to someone, like if you speak to a firefighter, right? Like you get their profound experience in their day-to-day business, and like yeah, you just like so many careers you can learn to. You speak to a banker, they will tell you about the customer experience, what they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. You speak to someone in the restaurant business, you they talk to you about the challenges that servers might have, and or chefs might
Quick,
have. Yeah.
quick shout out here to Josh Hutto, who is a firefighter and an author.
Oh,
But yeah,
that's
he
super
was,
cool, man.
yeah,
Salute,
yeah.
salute to
He
him.
wrote
Yeah.
he wrote a firefighter lit RPG. It's gonna come out soon
Yeah.
too. It's yeah,
I have to check that out, man. That
yeah.
sounds really cool.
Son
Yeah.
of Flame, I think. Yeah, it's called Son of Flame.
Oh,
Cool,
that's
but
a hell of a title. Yeah.
really cool title. Yeah,
A
like
really good title. Yeah.
the cover. Like we also like agonized over the cover for like a long time. He's a close friend. And basically what you were saying, I completely agree with. Right? You
Yeah.
go out there and talk to people and just like
Yeah.
ask people. I think it has been a couple of weeks until I've interviewed Dr. Doritos MD, and
Yeah.
he talks to a lot of people who've been in active war zones to research for his own stuff, where he writes about military fantasy, military action stuff.
That's impressive. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very impressive.
And the
I
fact
think.
that he's willing to do that, and that's just
Yeah.
very good.
Oh,
Yeah.
they most of those actually like subscribe to his Patreon and just like comment. They go like, oh, like, sorry, but like that gun doesn't load from the left. He's like, okay,
Yeah.
thanks, right? And I remember this one time, one of my mentors for writing, David Cobbett, he used to be PI, and I wrote an action scene for an earlier novel of mine, and I wrote about like how like the bone in the nose crunched, and he's like this really tall guy, and
Yeah.
back then he was like clean shaven, like bald, like very
Yeah.
intense stare. He's a private
Yeah.
investigator, who was a private investigator, and then he told me like very good action scene, very realistic. Just by the way, there's no bone in the nose, just cartilage. I'm like, okay, thanks. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
he taught me a lot about characters and stuff. It's really fun.
Yeah.
But did you go out there and talk to a lot of people who actually like make chai or like are like tea experts?
I spoke to my mother.
Good, fair enough. Yeah.
It's her recipe in the books, like in Cultivating Chai. The recipe,
Mm.
not the fantasy one. Please don't go out looking for fantasy ingredients. Don't do that. But the other ingredients, the real ingredient, that's I videotaped her making a cup, right?
Nice.
And so then I just typed that out and I asked her and I added her input. And another thing is that like so you can talk to people who make chai, but that recipe is also kind of secret if they're selling it for a living. So
Yeah.
it's like closer to the KFC 12 spices secret than it is
Yeah.
about a cup of coffee, right?
No, absolutely. Like the kernels like 12 or 48 secret herbs and spices or whatever. Like like I don't know why that's like so funny to me. And you were mentioning that, and that's why I was looking behind me, because like Seth McDuffie
Yeah.
references KFC a lot in all of his books. I have no idea why.
Yeah.
He's not even from Kentucky. But yeah, cool.
Can a team of has-been teen idols save the world? Find out in the new series Boy Bands and Dragons. When Neverboyland is sucked into a magical world, their reunion takes a back seat to staying alive. But if they can get over the past drama that drove them apart, they may find that even pop stars can be heroes. Come and discover your new favorite read. Our comeback tour is Slaying Monsters, the first in the Boy Bands and Dragons series by Kim Smuga Otto, dropping on Kindle Unlimited, October 25th.
So obviously you've made a lot of chai in your own time, but also about writing. So you've written 13 stories, you've begun 13 stories, you've finished several of them. What is one thing that you learned that you wouldn't do again, or that you are trying to do better now in your own writing?
So I think rewriting is a trap because in my personal experience, like I started the System Apocalypse, I wrote it, and people told me that I don't like this. This isn't good, and it was I was new then, and I didn't have any feathers in my caps and in my cap, and I was demotivated about it. So I was like, I'm going to stop this. I'm going to clear my head, work on something new, and come back to it in a month or two, right? And then I do that, and people still have a completely different set of things to say about it, right? And that is perfectly valid. If you don't like something, you don't like it. It could be a Pulitzer Prize winning piece of
Yeah.
writing. But if you don't like it, you don't like it, and that's fine. But in my personal experience, I found like so now I went back to that story 2 years later, and I was like, I'm going to turn this piece of writing into a win for myself, and I'm going to finish it. So I'm going to finish write it to the end, and it's currently ongoing. So I'm writing that, and yeah, I don't think like I do think the rewritten version is a bit cleaner and it flows better. And but I think I should have probably just finished it the first time and just given it my best and learned from it and moved on. So that's been my personal experience. But again, this is not the case for I think most traditional published authors because they have several drafts to go through, and the draft, like the first draft, basically changes. Uh, the fifth draft is basically entirely different from the first draft. So it's just like it's not advice. This is just my personal experience, and your mileage may completely vary. And if rewriting works for you, that is perfectly valid. Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say like my personal experience is different because yes, like my first rewrite had a lot more followers than the first one, like
Yeah.
1,400 or 1,500 instead of like 200. And then I rewrote it again, and now it has 860.
Yeah.
I think one thing that I did wrong in that rewriting is that I didn't rewrite it. I didn't go completely back to the start and think about like, hey, how do these things all come together? And I know I've still promised people like my process in writing. Many people won't like it, especially on Railroad, because like you cannot rewrite serial fiction. It doesn't work well. But
Yeah.
one thing that I've learned in like my work as an agent is that there's a certain barrier, like a certain boundary that you usually do not cross as an author who doesn't rewrite. There's exceptions, like Actus, for example, because he just writes like a machine and he gets better with this every single book.
Actors is very phenomenally talented. Yeah.
But if you're looking at Shortloon, if you're looking at Dungeon Caller Carl, if you're looking at like all the really big ones, I think even Haylock does it to some certain degree. They all have some sort of process in which they completely trash everything and rewrite it again. So for Shirt, I know that the first 3 books he'd already completely written, and it was one book, and then he rewrote it again from scratch. That's why the first 3 books are like so like fundamentally amazing. I still like the rest of the story too. Some people don't, right? But there was also other factors in there. Like I said, yeah, I'm not dissing Here Fights Monsters. It's one of my favorite series. But I think like this like break at the end is not just because of the scenery switch. It's also because he had gotten into the like serial writing mode at that time. That's that drop off, I think. And if you're looking at Matt Dinneman, he rewrites every single chapter 20 times and then picks the best version.
Oh,
And then he
Matt
does
is
the next one.
amazing. Like Matt's one of the best authors in our genre. So I'm not surprised he does it. Yeah.
Yeah. And like the finished product you see is Matt Dinneman like hammering this thing until it's done. Will White, I can guarantee he did not just pants all that stuff and put it out there. I'm 100% sure that for Cradle, he spent a lot of time trimming this thing down to what it is. Like the first book might even be too fast, right? On the other hand, I kind of do enjoy sometimes the people like go on tangents in lit RPG. These things.
I think I could modify what I said earlier and say, don't rewrite based on other people's opinions. Yes. I think that could be what I was trying to say earlier because, I respect Royal Road very much because it has given me a platform. It has enabled me to get a following, a gathering of readers. And I will forever respect Royal Road very much for that. And I respect my readers for the same reason. But again, so it is at the end of the day your story. It is basically your aspects of your life crystallized that you're offering to the reader. And so if you do that based on other people's opinions, then you fall into the trap of uh, uh, being hindered in your own writing because you did it based on what someone else said. So I think like Matt Dinniman and the examples you mentioned, they probably did those A writes because they wanted to, because they thought they could improve. Yeah.
Yeah, and so my first rewrite, I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what.
Yeah.
So I looked at the stuff and I added like way too much information, like way too much. I don't know. To this day I can't get out of this like information trap I've built for myself there. But I still think that, like, I think it was Actus or Xcarn who said it, who put it so succinctly. If you have a couple of people who say something, they're usually wrong. But if it's a lot of people who say who have like the same criticism, they're usually right.
Oh yeah, absolutely agree.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have one part in my book around like chapter 30 right now where a lot of people are actually like, yeah, this is getting a bit tedious here. I'm like, okay, that means I have to like cut it. It means I have to like
yeah,
stop
that's
it
very
down.
yeah. I think Royal Road for us authors in the lit RPG progression space, I think it's the best developmental editing you can ask for, because these readers write in the genre, they like the genre, and they're making that criticism because they want to, not because they're being paid for it. So I think it's the best type of advice you can be offered when someone genuinely passionate about something says, hey, I don't think this part fits perfectly. And if enough people are saying that, there might be there is probably something there that is betraying some of the original promise or a previously mentioned story point, or yeah. So
Shoutouts, by the way, to this one guy who commented on like said chapter 30-ish. You can express your opinions without being insulting. You can try that.
That's absolutely true. I think.
Yeah. Some people have a lot of emotions when they're on the road, and like it's cool that some people have like a lot of emotions about your story because they want it to be something. But sometimes you might also remember there's a person on the other side of the comment. So keep it calm.
Yeah, I think I personally don't begrudge anyone for that, because that's so when I started writing, I think it was a very difficult period of time in my life. And so one thing that inspired me the most was like I was reading Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archives. And so it asks the question, this is a Stormlight Archive spoiler, by the way. So if if you haven't read it, you can skip for like 30 seconds ahead or 1 minute ahead. But yeah, so it basically asks the question, what is the most important step a man can take? And the answer to that is the next step, always the next step. So I think from being in that position and to coming here when I'm writing, and yeah, so it's just like I don't begrudge anyone, because I think I've been through stuff and that has strengthened me. So like online criticism, it's fine, man. Like it's part of the day, So I think that's an approach that can help someone who's starting off, because don't take everything personally, because they might be having a bad day, the person who's writing that comment, or they might not know the amount of time, effort you've spent into something. And I mean, you could like be angry at it. And initially I was like, why are they saying this? I spent like 5 hours on this, right? But I think, and now I think it's just better to
I mean,
take it in your stride.
I'm perfectly calm about it. Cool.
Yeah.
But you don't like, no one gets to talk to me like this.
Understand.
No, it doesn't hurt. Like I'm cool.
Yeah.
No one gets to talk to me like this.
Yeah,
Like, you don't
that's a
talk to me
good
like that.
Yeah.
It's a boundary I have. I don't want to be
Yeah.
talked to like this. Like, you
Yeah.
control yourself, or you don't talk to me.
Fair enough, man. That's
Yeah.
your right to set your personal
Yeah,
boundaries.
exactly.
Absolutely fine. Like if someone is saying something very mean in the comment section, it's your prerogative to just ignore it. Like
I mean, like,
yeah.
a shout out to Zogarth. He is very opinionated on this topic.
Yeah, Zogart is a titan in the industry. It's just he's just like
you-
amazing in how fast he does basically everything. Like
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
he's great at what he does. He also like has a he has very strong like opinions and very strong like self control ish kind of. Hard to explain because like set of boundaries I should say, because he literally goes out to his Patreons and says like, look, I made enough money. You're here at my sufferance. I could not write. If you don't like my story, shut the fuck up and get the fuck out. Or shut up and read. I don't care. Right?
Yeah.
Like in no uncertain terms. I'm not saying you should do that, but
No, I don't think I'd be able to because I'd feel terrible, man. Honestly, I can't. I'm not built for that.
I also personally don't believe that like using rage as a self-defense mechanism is good. That's why I'm writing about it. But I do respect Zogar for that. Right? He sets his own boundaries and he reinforces them, and he knows what he wants and he knows what he does. That I can 100% like respect that. So definitely. Speaking of people that we like, what's one book that you like and why is it awesome?
So again, that Brandon Sanderson book I was talking about, actually I'll talk about something in the progression fantasy space. And this is going to come off as a very odd take, right? And I'm ready for everything because, see, I really like Mother of Learning. It's one of my favorite stories. But I liked it so much. And this was a first for me. This is probably what got me into writing. I liked it so much I never read the last chapter. I never read the last chapter because I didn't want the story to end. Yeah.
That's not a hot take. That is just cool. That is really cool.
It is a hot take in the sense that, like, for me, there were like one types of stories until so there's stories you like and want to see the ending of. For me, until that point, that was the only type of story I'd read. But then after Mother of Learning, I was like, I don't want this to end, man. This is so sad. I don't want.
I want it to live on in my mind. Yeah. 100%.
I really need to read that last chapter, but I don't want it to end. So
you don't need to do anything. Like I had the same thing with a game called Okami.
Okay. Yeah.
Where it's kind of like it's Zelda, but you're a Japanese god. It's a wolf god. And this game always felt as though it had like an ending, and then it kept going on. And like I fell in love with it so much that when it really ended, I was like, no, how dare you trick me like this? It was really cool.
Yeah.
And Mother of Learning is excellent. Like it is
another story that I really like. Is super supportive. I think it's just like very good character work. And anyone who hasn't read it, it's a superhero system story, but it's so much more than that. And I don't know if you've had the author of that story come up on your podcast.
Sleka, no. I've tried to get her, but she's very private.
Okay, yeah, that's very valid. Yeah. But like her characters, they just feel so real. They feel like it's just like very good writing, and like it feels like you're living in that world alongside the college students and like superhero college students, which is just a very fun take on it. And I mentioned Kieran earlier, and what I really like about that story is that you just have this archmage, and he just throws spells around like they're candy. And those spells actually have weight, like they have an explanation to them. It's not like you just say Shadow Storm and it's just like black swirly things flying around. They have like weight, they have mana costs, they have like a category. And yeah, that's just that was very enjoyable for me.
Oh my god, what was the author's name? I forgot. He wrote several reincarnated stories, I had him on the podcast, and I feel very terrible now. The author of Kieran.
Emergency Complaints is his author name, I think.
Oh, Emergency Complaints. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I've had him on. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And I swear that guy has like a calculator in his head somewhere. Like,
Yeah.
it's insane.
Yeah.
Like, because I could not build a system with like that much complexity and like the mana cost and everything and like calculate it all. Like, it would just get in the way of my story. But I love it when people like do it like that and it actually works.
Yeah.
So cool. This may be a bit of a shorter episode, but do you have any shout outs?
So I'll just talk about stories that I have been reading in the last few months and I've enjoyed. So Quest Academy is one of those stories.
Brian, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the author personally, but I really enjoyed that story. And it's
great.
just like, I think it's like one of the most sympathetic characters that I've seen. He's just a very emotional character. And the world building is super interesting. I'm on book 3 right now, and it's a page turner, right? And I've been. Yeah,
it's really awesome. Yeah, like I just want to like jump in because Brian's like really awesome because not only is he a super friendly person, it's like lovely to hang out with, but also his writing style, like he pants all of it, and like sometimes it shows, but it never is to the detriment of the story. I really love it. I would have loved more harem in book 1. I'm kidding. There's no harem in book 1. It's a bit of an in joke.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah.
And,
you should really read it if you haven't yet.
Yeah, and I really like Mark of the Fool personally because like when it came, I think what's important is when the story came. Like when the story came, a lot of it, like a lot of stories you would find popular stories of like this main character that's really like empathy. They're not too big on empathy, right?
Yeah.
And then you have like Alex Roth is just so bright and shiny and bubbly, and he doesn't want to save the world. He just wants to attend Magic Academy and learn with his friends. And I think that was very inspiring to see someone go against the grain and have such tremendous success. And all the skills, right? I have to shout out all the skills because I think a lot of people have already read this one because it's just so popular. But I think when I was listened to the audiobooks, and I think it was Luke Daniel, and the audiobooks were like so well narrated, and it's just like the cards in that world, like the world building around the cards is just so fun. It's just so fun because like the main character, I don't think I should spoil anything, but like it's in the name, the main character gets his card called All the Skills, and it's basically non-combat skills that he can learn and master.
Master of skills, exactly. And he gets really good at cooking. Yeah, it's
really,
and then like the combat applications.
It's just such a nice subversion, and
it's still an adventure story. It's not a cozy story. Like that's
it's not a cozy story. It subverts like general fantasy trends, like Mark of the Fool does. But it also has its entire universe that's going on there with cards. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Absolutely. Sorry. Go on. You have more?
I think I mentioned Kieran. I mentioned Quest Academy, and I'm just going to. Oh yeah, Actus. So I just binged Return of the Runebound Professor. Like I read all 5 books in like 7 days. I liked it that much, and I think what Actus does is like if you pick up a book of his, and you expect a certain kind of characters, and that and I really like that kind of character that Actus writes. So his characters are never too high on, like they're not too glum or gloomy, and they're just like fun people. And there's always this one eldritch sidekick that's cosplaying as a human and running around with him. And like the eldritch sidekick trope is something I think he does it better than anyone else in the genre. Like you have like an eldritch sidekick running around like a demon or a skinwalker, and it's just very fun. Yeah.
Yeah, like he and they're not all samey either. Like it's
Yeah,
that's
they're
something
not
I
all
really
same.
like.
Like
Yeah.
his other story, the one about the blacksmith, Rise of the Blacksmith,
Rise of the Living Forge. Yeah.
Rise of the Living Forge. Yeah, I um I really like that story, but it's very different. But it's got a similar vibe to it because it's about a hero and a demon queen, and they
Yeah.
find themselves living under one roof, and like runs a hearth, and the other runs a forge, and they get unique classes, and based on those classes, they have to live out those lives, the new roles, and then they learn about conspiracies that have been done against them by the uh, uh, Adventurers Guild, and the Adventurers Guild is always evil. We all know that.
Always, yeah. Like
Always, yeah.
it can never be good. Yeah.
It
No.
can never be good. Like, come on,
No,
not
yeah.
the Adventurers Guild.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I have one more shout out because
Yeah.
you haven't mentioned it yet. I'm wondering if you've read it. Bog Standard Isekai.
I haven't read Bog Standard Isekai yet, but
It
I
is.
think the title of that is so good because other people advertise themselves in it like so Bog Standard, man, Bog Standard Isekai,
Yeah.
and I bet it's not Bog Standard because it did very well, and
It is and it isn't. Like that's
yeah,
the cool part of
exactly,
it.
exactly.
It really is like it is a Bog Standard Isekai story.
Yeah,
But like that's like what Miles did there is like he took like a premise and made it the best version of it. He boiled
Yeah.
it down to its absolute like fundamentals and then made an amazing story out of it.
oh
And
yeah,
like
another story is
it has
yeah, go on,
great
sorry,
success.
yeah, go on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It has
yeah, go
great
on.
success already on Railroad, but it needs way more success on Amazon, I think, because like I love this book a lot. Like caveat here, I am his agent, so like that
I
I
mean,
have
that's
to mention.
fine, man.
Yeah.
Like if you like something, you like something, and if you
Yeah.
like that book enough to represent it, I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, like because that's effort and work on your part. It's not
Yeah.
like
I just
yeah.
don't want anyone to go like, oh man, he's just shouting out his own clients. Like, yeah, but also I'm also know people
I
who are
think
my clients.
another very talented author in this sphere is Slifer. He's written
Mm.
Corruption Wielder. He's written
Red
Demonic
Room.
Devourer, and I think he's just like inspiring author to be around because he just writes so fast and yeah, and he's just
Yeah. I met him at DragonCon like really briefly, I think. Like
yeah,
my stay at DragonCon was like very short. But
yeah,
yeah, I definitely recommend Sliver's books as well.
yeah.
Oh, God, there's so many.
And there's so many. Yeah,
But with that being said, I think this is the end of this podcast for now. We're gonna be talking a little bit more in the Patreon content, but yeah. Do you have any like last words for the public version?
let's see. Last words. If you're feeling down, drink a cup of chai, man. It'll pass. It'll pass. It'll pass. Yeah.
Just try some chai.
Oh yeah, I think can I plug my mother's recipe?
Of course, yeah, of course. Let's do it.
Yeah. It's just gonna take a minute to pull up, but yeah.
Do you want to like send me a link and I can put it underneath the
Okay, yeah.
episode in the comments?
Yeah, that works. That totally works. So yeah, you'll have my mother's chai recipe at the bottom of the description. Yeah,
It's awesome.
yeah.
You should really look at it. I'm going to put a link to it. And yeah, with that being said, thanks everyone for listening and or watching. And if you're on Patreon, the show goes on.